The story begins at the funeral of Joseph Facello, a minor criminal aged 42, who was also known by his alias, Joe Face. He serves as the story's narrator. Though some of Joe's associates are present, trying to gather enough money for his burial, Spider-Man makes an appearance and adds a few dollars to the cause. Through Joe's narration, we learn that he once sold Spider-Man information about the happenings on the streets. One evening, Spider-Man encounters Joe in a heavily intoxicated state while he's in the middle of attempting to steal liquor from a store. Instead of turning him over to the authorities, after listening to Joe's tale of deceiving a woman into loving him, ruining his marriage, losing contact with his son for 2 years, and sinking into alcoholism, Spider-Man takes a risk and offers him a second chance. Before we continue, don't forget to click the like and subscribe buttons to stay updated with more comic book content like this and help support small content creators like me. The second chance seems to pay off as Joe turns his life around, secures a job, reconnects with his son, and spends time repairing his relationship with his ex-wife. He tells us that he was a happy and content man for a short while. Later, we see Joe having a smoke when Spider-Man suddenly appears, snatches the cigarette, and questions why Joe has returned to the snitching business. Joe mentions that working as a grocery bagger isn't making him the money he wants, but the information he possesses about an upcoming criminal event will change all that. He claims to know that a group of criminals are trafficking children in Staten Island tonight and insists that Spider-Man must intervene. He provides the location where this crime is set to occur, and Spider-Man reassures Joe that he will handle the situation. As Spider-Man departs, a mobster named Jimmy the Mouth Delgado emerges from the shadows, praising Joe for aiding in Spider-Man's setup. The scene shifts to 2 of Jimmy's henchmen playing cards until Spider-Man quickly takes them down. He then heads to the basement where he is ambushed and knocked unconscious by more thugs. With Spider-Man now restrained by Jimmy's henchmen, Jimmy arrives, congratulating himself on capturing Spider-Man and planning to be the first to unmask him and reveal his identity. Jimmy also publicly acknowledges Joe's part in capturing Spider-Man, to which Joe apologizes, explaining that the money was too tempting to refuse. Suddenly, the lights flicker off for a brief moment, and when they come back on, all of Jimmy's henchmen are unconscious on the floor. Joe starts chuckling and laughing at Jimmy, revealing a hint that he and Spider-Man had been in cahoots the entire time. It turns out that's exactly what happened. Jimmy grabs Joe, threatening to slit the snitch's throat, but Joe manages to outmaneuver him and knocks him out. Afterwards, Joe declares that this was one of the best moments of his life. He then shares with the readers that he followed Spider-Man's advice, turned his life around, moved to Idaho, but eventually came back to New York a few months later and fell back into his old habits. Unfortunately, not too long after he returned, he suffered a heart attack and died. Later, Spider-Man visits Joe's family, telling Joe's thrilled son that he knew his father and that Joe was Spider-Man's unofficial partner in fighting crime, bringing a big smile to the boy's face. Joe expresses his eternal gratitude to Spider-Man for looking out for him and his family. This story has a heartfelt message and highlights that Spider-Man was helping criminals even when he wore the symbiote suit.